Hello, and welcome to another in this series of videos introducing HyperFlow AI beta release. In this video, we're going to introduce flow graphs, the fundamental development tool in HyperFlow. Now, HyperFlow is a no-code development environment for AI applications and AI-assisted workflows. So instead of writing code, you draw workflows for the various tasks and components in your project, and HyperFlow will run them for you. These executable workflows are known as flow graphs in HyperFlow, and most of the development environment UI revolves around building and running and refining these flow graphs. You use flow graphs in nearly every aspect of building AI-based applications and workflows in HyperFlow, including building and deploying interactive chatbots and AI assistants, of course, importing and processing content that will source knowledge bases for domain-specific apps, interacting with real-time external services for knowledge sourcing or result delivery, for setting up agentic workflows, coordinating multiple cooperating AI models in a single application, or for orchestrating multiple independent AI services via control and API plugin system that HyperFlow supports, making HyperFlow an ideal hub for such composite systems. So let's see what flow graphs look like in HyperFlow by exploring some of the example flow graphs that were installed when you created the first project. You can get at them in the flow graph directory over here on the left-hand side that shows you all of the flow graphs that are in a particular selected project. The examples were injected under the examples tag, and we've got 6 or 7 of them, sort of covering the range of workflows that I mentioned earlier in the video. I'll go through 1 or 2 of them in some detail, then quickly show you the others so you get a sense of what flow graphs look like. In later videos, we'll go through them all in some detail, building each one of them and running them and seeing how we work on refining them and developing them further. So you load up a flow graph so we can see it in the main flow graph editor just by selecting it in the directory over here. And this is probably the simplest flow graph we could get. It's just got 2 steps. These things we call nodes in the flow graph. This step is done first, then this one, the purple line defines the ordering, the so-called process flow. The blue lines define the data that's passed from one step to the next. So in this case here, where this node here is requesting a user input prompt, a query from the user, handing control off to this node here, which will call an LLM. And the user prompt is passed into this LLM call node, and which will cause the prompt to be sent up to the user. The response will come back and be shown. So it's kind of like a one-shot chatbot. An obvious improvement on that would be a looping chatbot. That's exactly what this is, where we've taken the step following this LLM call back around here. And so we've got a looping chatbot. We generated a loop, as you can see here. So this will simulate the kind of looping chatbot that you have with things like ChatGPT and Gemini, the classic interactive web-based chatbots. We've also added another node here that allows us to insert instructions into this call to the LLM, essentially being able to instruct it on the way in which it should behave and how it should respond to the user's request. This is a very common part of so-called prompt engineering, is building the correct instructions that you would send up to the LLM. And then we've added this loop back here of the prior generated response back into this prior responses input here, so that the LLM gets a chance to see what it has said in the past. LLMs generally don't have long-term memory. And so, in fact, the apps have to keep a history of the conversation and pass the whole conversation up to the LLM each time. And that's essentially what this is doing here. So here's an improvement yet again. We've got the same user input prompt. We've got the same LLM call, the same instructions. But in this case here, we've inserted a knowledge base lookup. So the user prompt goes both into this knowledge base lookup as well as into the main LLM call. And the output of the knowledge base lookup, some knowledge, gets injected into the knowledge input here. And so what we've got essentially is a knowledge-based chatbot, or a RAG chatbot, a retrieval augmented chatbot, in which we're injecting some looked up knowledge, some retrieved knowledge, asking the LLM to use that knowledge to answer the user's initial prompt. We've added a couple more nodes here. This guy here just sends an opening message to the user. It's not in the loop, as you can see, so this message just gets sent one to the user. This is a way that you can, these prompt button nodes allow you to specify a set of initial recommended or suggested prompts that the user might try by clicking some prompt buttons. So this is a domain-specific or knowledge-based chatbot. You have to be able to build this knowledge base, and so HyperFlow lets you build workflows that have got nothing to do with chatbots. This one here is a workflow for importing content, breaking it up into knowledge chunks, and building searchable knowledge bases. And then down here, trying them out. This is a small test loop here where we're trying a user prompt. We're searching it in the knowledge base, seeing what the results are. And essentially, so this is a workflow specifically for building knowledge bases, not for implementing chatbots. Another different kind of flow here. Again, this is not a chatbot. This is a so-called agentic workflow in which we have two LLMs. The idea here is we want to be able to pass into this agentic flow a request for an image from the user, have this first LLM called DALI 3, say, or Stable Diffusion, and generate a candidate image. We pump that image into the second LLM's input and give it instructions saying, review this image and the user prompt. If it's not a very good image, generate a suggested prompt, an updated prompt that will then get passed back into the image generator, and do it in a loop. And so essentially, once the user requests a particular image, this guy will loop around each time trying to improve the image that it's generated. This guy here responding to modified prompts, generating images, this guy looking at the image, seeing whether it can recommend any improvements, and sending the improved prompts back around here for it to generate it again. It's fun watching this guy work. But this is a very simple but classic example of an agentic flow where multiple LLMs are working together to perform very, very useful tasks, content generation tasks in this case here. Here's another non-chatbot flow. In this case here, we have capabilities in HyperFlow to do things like build a batch processing workflow. In this case here, we want to be able to import, say, 100 different scanned images and then break them up one at a time and send them up to an LLM to perhaps do a transcription or an OCR or just a plain description of the scan, and place that into a knowledge base content input and then loop around. So this is the batch processing loop implemented as a flow graph in HyperFlow, just for doing content processing and content management. HyperFlow, again, is not just building chatbots. It's building any kind of workflow, automating any kind of workflow that relates to the use of AI technology or is used in support of building AI applications. And then as a final example here, HyperFlow also supports the ability to make use of so-called tool using LLMs or AI models, in which it's possible to define a number of interesting special purpose tools. In this case, we've defined two tools. This tool using LLM is able to look at user prompts and decide whether these tools are useful to use. In this case, I think in this example, which we'll look at, this guy here looks up real-time weather information. This guy here does some mathematical calculations. And so this LLM is able to recognize when these tools would be useful call these tools to do their special task. This again is a classic kind of agent-based AI application. Again, in a simple looping chatbot. We'll explore all of these in detail in later videos, but it gives you a sense of the kinds of range of flow graphs that we can build and kind of what they look like. These purple flows, workflows or process flows, the blue lines defining the data flows between them. Okay, I think that'll do for this video. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.